Okay, and I guess we are live. Welcome everyone for one more episode of LinkedIn Live from Factors.ai. Uh, we have a very well-known guest and also a very special friend here, Shyam from Triple Dart. He's one of the founders of Triple Dart, and he's here. A brief introduction from my side about Shyam, and also I'd also introduce myself. But Shyam has been working with us since the time we started up. Almost, we know him from the time we started up. It's been 4 years. When he was working with Freshworks, later he started consulting, and then he actually started building Triple Dot. We have been in touch with him across the board. At any point in time, more than currently, I think they have more than 100 customers. But he's one of the most well-known performance marketers in B2B SaaS in India. Almost every single SaaS company which we have known either have worked with Shyam or know of Shyam. There isn't anyone who hasn't, like, I don't know Shyam. That doesn't happen at all. So either they would have been working, every founder would have actually worked with Shyam or know of Shyam, which is there. And most importantly, it's a kind of a go-to authority in terms of all things around B2B marketing, which is there. And to the extent where, like, both VCs, top tier one AC VCs like Axel, Sequoia, multiple them seek his counsel, not just for their portfolio companies, including like what he thinks about some of the companies which he is evaluating. So, in a sense, what Shyam can offer in terms of insights and ideas is like kind of like a very private material, which we can all seek now, which is there. So thanks a lot for Shyam for making time to be here. I did my introduction of Shyam, but why don't you start with your story? Where did you come from? What happened? How did B2B SaaS happen before we actually dive into the topic of the day, which is how to 2x the ROI on LinkedIn ads?
Yeah, first of all, I've never heard an introduction like this before in any of my other podcasts or shows that I've been part of. So first of all, thanks, Sri. Yeah, as Sri said, we go a long way. So and this LinkedIn Live is pending. So when he started his first live, he asked me. So I told him, Sri, do a lot of live, and then I will do once you hit 1 million or 2 million. I think now they are more than that. So I'm very happy to be part of this Factors LinkedIn Live. All right. So first of all, like most of the marketers, I also started my journey with big tools of B2B SaaS in India. So I worked for both Zoho and Freshworks, right? So one of the early digital marketer in Zoho, I set up digital teams back in like 7-8 years back, and then I worked for Freshworks for a brief amount of time, particularly on their like demand generation efforts for Europe and APAC. So that's the time.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's the time I thought, okay, there isn't enough space. Like for example, if I wanted to give you a start today, there are about 3,000 B2B SaaS companies in India, right? And out of which only 90 companies have crossed 10 million in revenue. So there are about still 2,900 companies who are less than 10 million in revenue, right? And almost all companies after they start
That's an
building.
amazing stat. 2,000 companies which are less than 10 million in revenue.
Correct. So there are about 38,000 overall SaaS companies. I mean, like worldwide listed. But I saw another stat. It shows 80,000 total company. I don't know what is the right number. But yeah, in India, from SaaS Boomi report, I know for sure it's around 3,000, 3,500 last year. Right. So most of the companies after building their product, wanted to go to market, the first role they used to hire is digital marketers, right? Right, be it content, be it digital, be it SEO, performance, and all those things. This is the core primary role, I would say. So the thing is, India have really good like marketers, but most of the marketers are either placed in house or working in different companies and things like that.
Got
So we
it.
saw the gap there, and I just called my previous colleagues at Zoho and Freshworks, and I'm fortunate they said yes to join with me, and that's I mean there is no looking back or turning back from there
Wow.
on. So we've been
That's great.
as we said, we've been working with close to 100 plus or 120 plus companies in total, right? And we have two types of portfolio. One is early stage, seed, series A, like post product market fit
Wow.
companies. We also have bigger companies like Zora, ByteDance, Sentinel One, right? Those side of companies on the other side of bucket, right? So yeah, so that's all about my
Sure.
introduction, and I'm happy to basically dive deep into LinkedIn specifically later.
That's great. I will share one tidbit of native information, but I'll come back. But thanks a lot for the great introduction, Shyam. For everyone here uh, who know of Shyam, but quite possibly not know me, Sri here, I'm one of the founders at Factors.ai. Uh, uh, at Factors.ai, we are a three-member founding team, now close to 50 plus people. We are based out of 2748.ai in HSR layout, the AI building. We work with more than 300 customers, primarily B2B. This is our office as we speak here. And prior to Factors.ai, I was at InMobi. I met my co-founder there. Before that, I was also a Bangalore boy. I did college here in RV College here. I met my other co-founder here. So that's how we all got together. And now we are scaling B2B marketing with more than 300 plus companies. And that's what we do at Factors.ai. And the topic for this call or this LinkedIn Live primarily is about LinkedIn ads and what are the things which are changing. And but the more macro thing is like how LinkedIn ads are important in the overall sphere of B2B advertising. So Shyam, I just picked up as you were saying, it's like you spent both early days in Zoho and then Freshworks. And this is like would have been like 2019, 2020, 2021, and even before that. What are the you would have spent on LinkedIn ads in these large organizations earlier as well, and now you're also spending on LinkedIn ads the same. What are the things which have changed overall in terms of like how people or how B2B and SaaS companies approach LinkedIn ads? What are the things which have changed?
Correct. So I'll talk a little bit more about Zoho and then about Freshworks and what are we doing currently, right? So a lot of things change, obviously. It's a ever-changing landscape. Every day there is some new things have been coming in, right? So, but when at Zoho, we predominantly use LinkedIn for brand awareness, and also we use LinkedIn for we used to run job ads to basically hire people, right? So that's how it got started. And with Freshworks, it's completely different. So we have a segment team, right? And they basically go behind big ACV companies. We have field marketers and stuff like that. So what we do is they create the integrated campaigns, more white papers, case studies, influencer report, like cheat sheets, and all those things, more lead gen kind of campaigns. So what we used to do back then was we spend a lot on this very top of funnel lead gen campaigns,
Okay.
mostly on ebooks and stuff like that. So that's what we used to do back then. But I mean, whenever we go and ask our superiors, right, a budget for direct acquisition for LinkedIn, historically, LinkedIn was not a channel to prove ROI. Right, so it's very difficult for us initial days, and also sitting in India doing or targeting in the US, it's kind of difficult to basically get the right data from the platform also. So we limited ourselves, just doing brand awareness and this lead gen campaigns for most part of it.
Got it. That's great. And how has it changed now? How do you use LinkedIn ads now?
Yeah, so I always tell this to every client or every prospect that I speak today, right? So I would like to consider again, this is also I'm constantly telling this to my team as well. So you should consider LinkedIn as your daily press release, right? That's the word I use everywhere. So what I mean by that is, you cannot afford to do press release on a daily basis, right? In Forbes or entrepreneur.com and things like that. But what you can do is, let's say 60 to 70% of your buyers are actually available on LinkedIn. It doesn't, I mean, if you're getting only 1% of the clicks for all your ads, that doesn't mean that 99% of the other users are not seeing your ad. It actually means that the 99% of the other users have been actually seeing your ad on a day in and day out basis. So what I would basically say is consider LinkedIn more like your primary internal channel to distribute what are all things that you are doing on your daily basis at your company. And the most important thing with LinkedIn is you can precisely target who you wanted to target, instead of like what is the like people will ask like, okay, like can I just do organic LinkedIn instead of like this paid LinkedIn, right? So the problem with organic is, because of the new algorithm changes and stuff like that, your post will only available in a feed for a certain amount of time. But when it comes to LinkedIn ads, right, like let's say if you wanted to make sure that Sri Krishna knows about triple dart, I will make sure that Sri Krishna knows about triple dart by showing ads. I'll use another analogy that I would like to basically show is, right, like you should use LinkedIn more like your email drip campaign. How you're running your email drip campaign,
The
right?
campaign
So
flow that way.
yeah, first email you will introduce yourself. That's exactly your email or LinkedIn copy should look like. Talk about something very like high level, like talk about your funding news, talk about your founders, talk about like what kind of things that you've been doing, very very high level, right? So it could be a clickbaity kind of a content. So once after 5 6 days, what do you do if the email is not like replied or things like that? You will send the second email, right? That is the time
Okay.
you need to send a second copy which talks more a little bit more about your solution or the product that you're
Got it.
solving, right?
Nice. So kind of like using multiple creators and a kind of a campaign flow across the same audience on LinkedIn to
Correct,
try to
correct,
actually get a kind of a
correct, correct,
recall,
correct.
which is
And also try to like let's say if you get a lead from LinkedIn, just go on a call and then ask them, did they realize they are going through multiple funnels, right? Right. So I asked this questions for a few of our clients, prospects, basically, right? So we usually ask like if they converted in the first stage, right? Like what made you convert, or if you convert in the second stage, what do you mean? If you convert in the first stage, LinkedIn doesn't do it work. Like probably Google Ads or Captra or something else have actually pushed them to basically do the sign up. But if they convinced on the second or third stage, so it will clearly depicts
Oh, wow. So actually, what you're saying is like using a different kind of creatives over a stage-based this thing. You can actually see how LinkedIn has nurtured that account.
correct,
In a
correct.
sense, how LinkedIn has a causal influence on a particular pipeline or a deal being created versus companies getting converted through some other
Yeah,
channel, which is there, and
yeah,
then also looking at LinkedIn. That's
yeah. So
very cool.
usually, so for smaller budget companies, let's say I have only $5,000 to spend on LinkedIn. This is a very big problem that we notice on a everyday basis. But they wanted to spend on LinkedIn. So if you go to like a conventional way of doing it is, okay, like if someone clicks the ad, right, then show the second ad, right, or the second funnel, right? So if someone comes to our website, then separate that audience and then send them a second funnel. But with $5,000, you cannot reach that threshold. Okay.
Got it.
So what is a like idea that we have brought in because to basically like navigate this situation is, don't like filter audience based on engagement, just filter audience based on the number of days itself, right? 10 days show like copy one, second 10 days show the copy two, third 10 days show the copy three, right? So that your audience will basically navigate through different types of messaging rather than just sticking it with like just the top of funnel or narrative from your company.
Got it. So this is like actually I want to segue into a next set of questions. It's like you talked about some problems where like $5,000 budget or this is a kind of the thing. When you run LinkedIn ads, how do companies? What are the kind of problems which you come across when you're running? I mean, you are working with 100 plus customers, so there would be very significant of them using or running LinkedIn ads. What are the kind of problems they talk about when they are running LinkedIn ads?
Yeah. So again, very good question. So, like long story short, LinkedIn ads is directly proportional to the content or asset that you have. Let's say if you don't have good asset, good content, it won't work. Uh, right? Let's say you wanted to target a healthcare, but you don't have a healthcare case study or a solution page. You wanted to basically target enterprise, but you don't have any asset or copy or supplementary materials to support. So this is one problem that we encounter a lot. And the second problem that we encounter a lot with these customers that we are working with LinkedIn is probably the most important problem also, the tracking, right? So they basically say, okay, like, we've been running LinkedIn ads for the last 18 months or 24 months and things like that, but we couldn't able to see ROI from this, right? And this inventory is very costly. If I look at my Upwork or Salesforce, we couldn't able to basically see, okay, like, enough data flows through this. That is another big problem. The third problem that I would say is, okay, like, they'll only have, either they'll have 100 accounts or they have 10,000 accounts to
Okay.
target, right? For 100 accounts, all 100 accounts should be enterprise. So the biggest problem there is, like, one enterprise will eat up all the budget. If
Got
we are
it.
going 100, like 1,000 audience, again, we don't know like which tier to basically like focus on. So these are all some couple of or three major problems that I would basically list down. To summarize, one is asset, second one is tracking, third one is the audience.
So let's look at the assets part, because assets is the more creative part, or creating better assets and other this thing. Where do people falter there, or like what are the kind of this thing, and where does triple dot come in? Also, I think you also build landing pages, you build creative copies. So how does both of those things come in together? Like how do you solve for those issues?
Right. So first of all, you need to like to build this assets. Like you should, at a company level, you should have one messaging framework that should be used on your, like, landing pages, your creatives, your email copies, your integrated marketing campaigns, and all those things. So as an agency, we can get there. But what is important is that narrative. Like, what is your company's brand positioning? What is your company's value prop? All right, like, what is the differentiation between, like, like company A and company B? Right, so this kind of information we need. So where people are lacking today is they wanted to launch the campaign like immediately, without thinking too much about the creative or the content that they're building. So that, I would say, it's a mindset shift, right? Like, like they wanted to start like, campaigns tomorrow, right, without having an asset. If you don't have any asset, but you wanted to run like LinkedIn ad, then there are inventories to basically do it. You can still run conversational ads, we can run thought leadership ads and things like that. But most of the times, what we've been seeing is people are not ready to how to say, like, spend enough time on doing that content mapping. And the second problem that I would like say is they are not integrated with the overall marketing objective. So the content they need to get this through product marketing team or the sales enablement team or through the partnership team. We are more of a, like, we have a limitation as a performance marketer. We have a limitation, right? What limitation that we have is we are a distribution arm. We are not a creation arm, right? The creation arm should basically tell us what to distribute, right? If you take that creation goal, then we don't know if that is already prioritized by the company, or if this feature is already like selling, or is this a, like, deal breaker, right? All those like inside informations we don't know, right? So that's why there is a team called product marketing who directly work with product management team on a day in and day out basis. We need to collect more information from them to basically run this.
Actually, you brought out a pretty exciting point. This is something most even SaaS companies or startups or Series A level miss. They think of like performance marketing as a lead generating funnel. They don't see how the creative part, and most importantly, the product assets and product to the product marketing assets, how it ties down to for you to create the creatives and make it, or make the copies work in this thing. And that's something I think it's very important for a lot of companies to see. The second aspect which you actually talked about is something which is close to us, which is in a sense comes back to attribution or tracking. I run LinkedIn ads for 18 months, and this I don't know what is the impact or what's the value of LinkedIn ads. One, how do you tackle such questions internally or working with clients, etc.? And most importantly, why is it that this appears more in terms of LinkedIn compared to something like some other channel? Why do people say LinkedIn is costly or LinkedIn ads? I don't know what is this thing compared to. Generally, people don't generally say Google ads is costly. I mean, though it's known to be costly, they don't be Google for it. They say the category has high clicks or high PPCs, etc. But LinkedIn ads, people generally tend to blame it for being costly. How do you actually tackle this kind of thing?
Yeah, first, I'll answer the later part. Like, how do you tackle this? I'll tell a little bit later. So, the general observation, right, from a LinkedIn standpoint, see, even today, right? 70% of the LinkedIn users are like they use in mobile, right? And like most of the forms that we have on the website are request a demo form or a sign up form. Okay, it's not a reading material. I cannot basically sit in my bed and then basically read while I'm scrolling this LinkedIn thing. So what happens is most of the people are seeing the ads on LinkedIn, right? And after that, like after a certain point in time, and also the biggest problem. This is where the biggest problem is, right? Most of the other apps are like Google Chrome based, right? LinkedIn is a separate app altogether, right? I cannot get the LinkedIn click cookie and pass it back to Google Chrome, right? With integrate with my other channels.
Channels.
Why?
Yes.
Because your direct, your search, your SEO, all these things are connected through. These are all the three major channels for any B2B SaaS companies. All the three channels have been uh, powered by either Google Chrome or Microsoft Edge or Mozilla Firefox, right?
Yeah.
LinkedIn is a separate entity altogether. This and this won't talk to each other, right?
Got it.
And today I'm scrolling something, I'm seeing something on LinkedIn. Tomorrow, if I go and search something on LinkedIn, if Google owns LinkedIn, this is possible, right? Sham have searched or scrolled something on LinkedIn yesterday, which Sham sees a factors.ai ad. Tomorrow, if Sham searches for factors.ai, right, then the automatic attribution will fill in place. But today, these are all two different ecosystems altogether. We cannot able to solve this. Like I would say, no product would solve. We cannot solve this, right? So
Got it.
but how we are tackling it is probably by using tools like factors.ai, right, which solves for at least the at least who is visiting the website,
Got
uh,
it.
and are they spending enough time, right? Right, and also is the same. Let's say, for example, we are getting a we are spending we are spending $50 for a competitor campaign on Google search, okay,
Yeah.
and someone clicks that, okay, and I know for sure if someone is searching for X alternative is a very intent or relevant visitor for me, okay, then I
Got
would add that as an audience to my LinkedIn, and I'm showing an X versus Y ad, a comparison battle card ad on LinkedIn, right?
Got it.
How the same user comes back on LinkedIn, I with factors.ai, I can tell my manager, okay, you asked me to stop this $50 campaign, $50 cost per click campaign, but this particular user again came from LinkedIn. It made us convert easy because of having this particular campaign, right? So that kind of narrative we can bring in easily using like tools like factors.ai. On top of that, one thing that we default ask our clients to do is add a self-reported attribution, all
Got
right?
it. Ah,
Again,
that's interesting.
yeah, again, you can like it could be your SDR icebreaker, I would say. Right? Like for example, your HubSpot says this lead came from Google competitor campaign, right? Your SDR can ask the prospect saying that, okay, hey, in HubSpot it says Google competitor campaign, but have you seen our LinkedIn ad?
Uh,
This one question, even though your
Even
HubSpot
if it's,
says
there is a brand recall, there is some brand
correct,
recall.
correct. So most of the people will say hey, I've seen it, or I don't remember, or I think so, something like that, right? Give a small score to that, right?
Got it.
And so that's what we call it as marketing versus sales alignment. And you just need to set this to your SDR team, to your account executives, on ask those questions, and then during your monthly calls, ask them how many people that who have done the discovery call have actually seen our ad.
Okay. Got it. That's great. So that's in the attribution part in terms of how they have people seen in this thing. One other thing which we have seen is like, and you also mentioned it pretty clearly also early, is like people don't click on LinkedIn ads. And as a platform, given it's on mobile and it's something like as a platform which is serendipitous discovery, any social platform is, it's not tuned towards clicking, it's tuned towards viewing. People view videos, people view ads. They say like, oh, this is interesting. They may like on it. They engage with ads either as a view or an engagement, but they don't click on those ads, which is there. This also brings it in conflict with traditional attribution models, more importantly, compared to other channels, which is like Google, which is click based. See, Google fundamentally is intent based because you search for something, you click on it. It doesn't have a concept of account, but it has a concept of search and intent, which is there. LinkedIn, on the other hand, has a concept of account. You can target a particular account, a particular person, etc., but doesn't have concept of intent at all. So people see ads and it works like a billboard. They get influenced by a billboard, but they don't immediately react to a billboard. They react much later. So the influence of LinkedIn ads coming back into a kind of a pipeline later, or the same account or influence, this thing can't be gathered unless and otherwise, like how you say, like either we are able to track views in the first place. That is something where factors.a helps, or something like a self-attribution form where, like, do you recall a brand ad from us, or etc., or a LinkedIn ad from us? Hence it actually helps us to actually come in through, and that's a very good part about the attribution part, which is there. One other thing which you also talked about and which I just wanted to touch upon is like the audiences on LinkedIn. And as you mentioned, like LinkedIn is a platform where like you can target at an account title level and you can go this thing. How good are the LinkedIn native targeting capabilities?
Yeah, so very good question actually. So I prefer like not to go with, even if you have $1,000 or $500 ad budget, don't go with like native targeting. Like, I'll tell you why, right? So if you just, I'll just like keep it short. So if you just target chief marketing officer as a title in LinkedIn native, right? So it will also show to chief officer, marketing officer.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So that is the thing. So just try it yourself, and then you'll get shocked.
So a marketing analyst can be, it will show to an analyst and it will also show anyone with a marketing title.
Correct. But the other problem with the account targeting, right? So people usually say like, you have to go with I mean you has to go with the native targeting from a inclusion and exclusion standpoint. That is no brainer. But exclusion also, be very careful, right? Like for example, let's say I am a a founder or a co-founder of a like 90-member company, but let's say if I also have a community which says like, I'm the only person, right? Let's say if you exclude 0 to 10 employees from your overall this thing, I'm also will get excluded, right? Even though I am a persona. So just try to be careful if it is an and condition or or condition that you're putting based on that. But the idea that I would basically like all, for at least for all the clients that we work with, I don't think we are going with any firmographic or this native targeting just with LinkedIn. So we use our own database, right? And then we basically scrape data from other tools, create an account book, split that account book into tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and then basically run it. The only native targeting that we will go with is for the retargeting campaigns. Again, that is part of the website. It's first party data, but that's the only thing we'll use the native this thing.
Got it. That's great. I mean, actually, the native targeting this thing, but one question which also comes, there is a user who had actually asked that question, like, how are you going to look at refined audience segments if you want to run on LinkedIn, if you can't really kind of like trust LinkedIn's native targeting capabilities?
What strategies can be used to refine audience segment based on LinkedIn rich data and insight?
Yeah.
So that's what I told you. You can put all the slice and dice yourself. LinkedIn gives you that opportunity to put all the slice and dice. But I would consider I'll tell you which are all things that worked well for us or well for me personally. So job title used to work really well for us. Seniority used to work really well for us, right? And also this is rare, but it used to work for certain cases. This LinkedIn groups, if that group is a very small number, works really well. Don't target groups have 10,000, 20,000 people. Target groups which have, let's say, HR community in Sydney. Right? Let's say there are about 60 people. You can target that. That's a very, very valid group.
That's
Right?
interesting. That's
Those kind of things would be much more useful, I would say, from a native standpoint.
That's great. So actually, that's actually a pretty good insight as well, where like, or a tactical insights where like you can target groups, you can target. So if you are, let's say, a KK HR, you want to target HR professionals, you can look at groups of LinkedIn where like users who are HR leaders in Sydney or HR leaders in Singapore, like that. And that's actually something which gets missed out. People look at more at audiences from a company side, but they don't look at audiences from a group side.
Group site, yeah,
Just that.
correct, correct. And also, if
Yes.
the group is managed by a good admin, that has
Hmm.
its own, like, like
Hmm.
power or potential and all those things.
That's good. And you will be able to target all users within that group. That's it.
Yeah, that's
In
the
LinkedIn
that's the
ads.
only possibilities that we have. Only
Mm,
with what, like,
mm,
LinkedIn. So there is another tool called Lead Enforce,
mm,
which helps you do the same thing for Meta. So if you
mm,
wanted to target groups
mm,
on Meta, leadenforce.com is the
mm.
tool. But for LinkedIn, natively it is available.
Yeah, so you can target groups and other this thing, and that's something which is pretty interesting. One more thing which is something which can come through as also, and this is something which we have seen as an analytics product, where like you can actually scale or you can push audiences based on intent, which is like you look at accounts which are coming to your website or looking at your review pages, reacting to your emails or your CRM actions or visited you on offline or like has read a blog or downloaded an ebook, etc. Based on these actions, you can create accounts showing intent or accounts showing actual kind of like propensity to buy in essence, create those audiences and then push it to LinkedIn. So this is like something like, though it's a serendipitous platform, you also build an audience back into LinkedIn, and that's actually also helps. Have you done anything similar or your teams and other this thing?
Yeah, so that's exactly so whatever I told you on
Hmm.
the, like the account book side, that's the starting point, right? Like,
Got it.
just to run your campaigns, you need to have a list of accounts, probably like 500,000 and all those things. But once you have that, the next step is whatever you're talking, right? So like
Got
how
it.
we'll move the funnel. So it is based
Hmm.
on all the first party data,
Hmm.
right? The first party data would be like, so the biggest problem today that SDRs or account executives have been facing is they've been looking at third party data, right?
Hmm.
Like more from Sales Navigator, Bombora, Slintel, and tools like that. So they're completely missing the first party rich information more from a
Hmm.
marketing standpoint. So what I
Got it.
mean by that is like, how many times a person has visited a website, like what kind of ad have someone have interacted, like
Hmm.
if someone already registered to our webinar, right? Like, is they our LinkedIn follower, is that particular person is connected with the founder or the co-founder of the company,
Hmm.
right? Or they've opened some of our emails. So all those things should be integrated. So we call this as the first party matrix, right? So we use factors.ai internally
Hmm.
for that also. Like, we pull data from that, and on top
Hmm.
of that, we connect it with HubSpot to
Got
get
it.
even more outbound related information, and then we
Hmm.
stitch it and we show it, okay, like, company A have more potential than company B, so try to create a very personalized email sequence for company A than company
Yeah,
B. So,
that's
and
great.
it can be currently automated. So there are tools like Clay. Again, I know Clay and Factors.ai have a integration that you can basically get the data from
Hmm.
Clay and start running it
Yeah.
based on the intent that you have. So yeah, so G2, Factors, Clay, these are all three tools that we are currently using to automate the overall sequencing from an intent standpoint.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, actually, we also find a lot of good quality signals from G2 because review sites, customer marketing, in a sense, where like how prospects or customers are reviewing is a great kind of information which prospective buyers seek. And those intent signals are available on G2. When you layer those signals along with your other account data or your ABM list and target those accounts on LinkedIn, the chances of lead generation or even nurturing that account to pipeline has also been very, very good. That's something which we have seen. And Clay, of course, is like a kind of a data enrichment or a data aggregation tool. Instead of using multiple tools for multiple things, you can use one tool where like you can get data from multiple sources, including technographics, scraping data, your firmographics and other data, and then build on that. So Clay has also been pretty amazing where like you can create that as part of your workflows and then run that, which is that. One other question, which coming to the primary thing of our whole LinkedIn Live, it's like how do you 2x ROI? You mentioned a couple of strategies. One is the audiences, slice and dice audiences, create custom audiences based on intent and then target. And that's a more of a targeting tactic, which is like you target very well. Second thing is you also talked about like attribution, saying that how LinkedIn actually it's a impacts pipeline, which is a kind of a postmortem, which is to when you run LinkedIn ads and how do you structurally run LinkedIn ads so that in a sense like you can actually save more money or kind of like make your budget work 2x than what it was earlier in this thing. Since you have worked with multiple this thing, if you can also tell both manually or operationally how you have implemented some strategies which have worked well for you so that you are able to deliver much better ROI than compared to independent teams running LinkedIn ads themselves, or anything else from even an automation perspective, which you think would be a great part of your tech stack, so that you can also use that to actually use it. Please, this thing, just like how you shared about targeting very specific groups on LinkedIn. What are the
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of insights you can?
Yeah, so there are like 4 or 5 checklists that I would like to basically do. So first of all, don't spend anything on your audience network on LinkedIn. So I see like
A
most of
strict
the
no.
strict no for that.
Mhm.
Right. So that is one thing, and second one is basically uh, like you know I mean, like I'm slightly opposite to a lot of people, but this is something I wanted to basically share for the first time. I've been debating this internally. So usually people will say if the reach or it's not reach, if the frequency is more than 5, you need to basically change the creator. That
Mhm.
is true when it comes to Meta, but
Mhm.
for LinkedIn, I would say you can still run frequency of more than 15. Why?
Mhm.
Because so the frequency of how to say, right, um, um, the frequency of getting registered to a brand in LinkedIn is much more needed than in Meta, right? It's a B2B platform,
Versus a
and
B2C.
yeah, and also if you change your messaging very quick, right, if you change the color, the font, and all those things, I won't get registered properly, right? So you should have a frequency capping, but you should test the frequency capping is what I'm saying, right? You should test it for 5 versus 10 versus 15 versus 20 and see what is, probably I would like to do a case study with factors.ai on this,
Mhm.
right? Because you have this frequency capping feature
Yeah.
that is not available for most of the marketer. I would say, that is difficult, right? Because if one person gets most of the budget, if that person sees all the ads, then if it is not spent in a right manner, your overall campaign will
Yeah.
don't result in anything.
No,
So
actually,
that
yeah, it's an
yeah.
interesting point. I also remember a previous conversation which was there, uh, and with multiple advertisers as well. We recently saw for a general seed stage company which spends close to $15,000 a month on LinkedIn ads. They target 10,000 accounts, which is part of like a particular all their competitor accounts, like all the accounts which are there with their competitor, etc. 500 of those accounts, which is basically 5% of their target audience, has actually taken 50% of their impression share
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
spends. So your 50% of your spends actually goes to nurture only 5% of your target list. And this is a kind of a skew which becomes kind of like very hard to maintain in something like a B2B advertising. In B2C, in a sense, it's like ads can get spread out because there are multiple users and each users, individually one user can't be there in multiple places. So since you brought in great examples around Facebook, in a Facebook, if I'm spending 5 hours, another user can spend 2 hours or 3 hours, but maybe this thing, and I can still cap at a user level and I can say like, okay, show so many ads to this user, show so many ads to this thing. And anyways, the time limit is there. But when it goes into an account level targeting, which is what happens in B2B, some companies become mega hitters, something like a Salesforce or a Deloitte or a Microsoft Corp. And if you target, let's say, data scientists, generally, data scientists in Microsoft will just hog almost all the impressions, while data scientists of Intuit, which will be much smaller in number, will be like not even having any ads. But both Microsoft and data and Intuit, both of them are going to pay you the same amount in terms of ACV value. So the value of that account for you to nurture is the same, but you end up showing very disproportionate numbers of ads to either of them, which is there. This results in lower leads on LinkedIn, and this also results in a kind of like the kind of this thing like, okay, LinkedIn ads are very costly, and LinkedIn ads are not kind of like affordable and other parts, which is then which just basically gets into a kind of a negative spiral. From then on, people stop spending on LinkedIn ads, they shift budgets to other channels, either email or Google search, and never get the ROI or even the multi account level nurturing or title level nurturing which they could get. So that's one thing which we have seen at multiple levels, and thanks that you had also mentioned as what is it. One more thing which I just wanted to ask, since you actually brought in very interesting comparisons, you were looking at like Facebook, you can cap users at a certain frequency. LinkedIn, you can cap users at a certain frequency, which is there. And hence, because Facebook is for a B2C social platform, while it's a B2B social platform. Any other insights are on the same thing, like how you can compare across channels in terms of like how it works in B2B in a certain way, how it works in a B2C in a certain way?
Got it. So, okay. So it's very ROAS focused. Like, this both these platforms are completely on the opposite side. So LinkedIn is basically crying like, I'm not getting ROI, right? But Facebook on the other side, like, most of the e-commerce like, uh, uh, players, they don't even look at Google Analytics. They just look at Facebook data to, like, pump up more money to get the ROAS 4x, 5x, 6x, and things like that. So that's the major difference. But I just wanted to answer your other question, right? So optimization hacks or best practices, just on LinkedIn, before I touch upon this real quick. So there are 2-3 important things that I wanted to basically tell. One is, as I told you, like, the frequency, you should limit. Audience, you should make sure you need to go ahead with. But other than that, like, I would say, um, like, I've never seen carousel ads works very best for most of the companies. You try static, you try video. These two are the good formats to try, basically test out. And let's say if you wanted to do a little bit deep down tracking on, like, like all the primary secondary events and things like that, try to add conversion API, so that you can track end-to-end funnel. So I think if you are a Factors your customers, you can do it with Factors. If you're not a Factors customers, let us know. We can do it manually,
Yeah.
right? So that is another thing that you can do. And the third thing that I would look from a best practices standpoint is, like, we used to run thought leadership campaign for most of the accounts, and we push the founders to basically post something on their behalf. We'll use that post. I'll tell you why it is very, very important. Like, the CPM of your thought leadership campaign is 10 times lesser than your actual ad campaign.
Wow.
Right? So I would like to basically share my screen and then show it, but I will post something on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So actually, I've spent just $400 to get around, like, 14,000 to 15,000 like, actual clicks to my profile. Right, just $400. Right, and there is a way in which you can able to do this. I would say, like, this thought leadership ads are not used by many marketers, and that inventory is very cheap today. Try it. That is one advice. And the second advice is, like, do conversational ads, but do conversational ads to invite people for event and webinars. Right, let's say if you're doing like, closed door dinners, or, like, in-person event, right, things like that. So conversational ads works the best, right? You can reach out to all CFOs or CMOs or CXOs, saying that, okay, like, this person is coming or this person is coming, and it's just going to be a 20-member event. We are basically like to invite them. This like, best practice works really well. And if you couple that with email, then your open rate, reply rate would be much more higher than these things. So this is for a smaller budget campaigns. For larger budget, I would say you should run your lead gen form, but in your lead gen form, create a HubSpot, like, how to say, sequencing within your lead gen form. And if someone fills the form, like, what we used to basically do is, we tell request a demo, but we won't take the people to our website. Instead, we will get a two-step form in the LinkedIn itself. Okay.
Okay.
And if someone fills the form, then we have created an automated sequence in Outplay or whatever outreach tool you use. It act more like your SDR. Okay, it will basically go and say, I know, I mean, like, I know you're interested in booking a call with us.
Nice.
Like, what time works for you? Something like that,
Wow.
right? So
Wow.
this is
That's
some,
interesting.
yeah, it worked really well. So why we are doing it is, if you take that user to your landing page, it will cost. I mean, your cost per lead will increase, your CTRs will be very lesser, and things like that. So when you use the lead gen form, you actually get a good. I'll tell you our success rate. So if 100 people fills the form, 60 people book a demo.
Wow.
Seriously, I'm saying,
That's
like, this is a, instead of just putting landing page, only 10 people will book a demo. So that is a difference. So you have 50 more, you have 40 people who won't be, like, relevant junk and all this thing, but still you have 60 people who can book a demo with you.
Got it. And actually, this is like folks who are listening, this is like amazing. While we talked about strategies in terms of like how do you attribute, how do you build audiences, how do you target certain specific groups, including even frequency capping, etc., where you can make sure you can actually save money. But there are also the tactical things, right from creatives. How do you sequence campaigns? How do you stage campaigns in creators? Right kind of lead gen forms, including even aspects about like how you want to show the ads in different forms in terms of times and other things. It's like pretty great tactics as well, so that you can actually achieve what you want to, which is basically like how do you want to increase your LinkedIn ads ROI at a fundamental level, which is that. One, we are getting into the last 10 minutes, which is that. What I also wanted to know, Shyam, is like, how does LinkedIn compare with other channels in your budget mix for your companies, and what kind of companies does LinkedIn ads work very well? Because why this I'm asking the question is, it's not something like LinkedIn ads is costly. It doesn't mean like other channels are cheaper or other channels are better. So when you want to invest in LinkedIn, how do you spread your budget, and how do you make LinkedIn work with other channels? How does that marketing mix actually work?
Okay. So in, like, in 2021, our mix is around 10% on LinkedIn, and 85% on Google, and rest are all other channels. Basically in 2022 it was around 14% on LinkedIn, and 80% on Google, and rest are all other channels. 2023 last year, our mix were around, 22-23% on LinkedIn, because our focus is also move towards very enterprise, like, B2B with high ACV and things like that. 22% on LinkedIn, and around, 70% on Google. This year, I just looked at the start, it was around 25% on LinkedIn, and around, 70% on Google, and another, 10% on other platforms basically. So what I'm that is to answer your first question. So what I mean by that is, I'm seeing, a rapid adoption with LinkedIn ads, right? Especially from Indian founders. I mean, like, most of the US or UK clients or other country clients that we used to work with, we don't want to convince them to spend on LinkedIn. They themselves know, okay, the power of this platform, and then they wanted to invest in it. But when it comes to, our Indian companies, they wanted to be very frugal about the ROI and things like that. So initially, back in 2020, 2021, it's very difficult for us to convince founders, marketing leaders to basically spend on LinkedIn. Now I can see a good drift with that. That is one. And second one, like, when you not to spend on LinkedIn, if your ACV is lesser than $3,000, please don't spend on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Right. So why I'm saying it is, your CPMs. What are all the CPMs? Even if you look at thought leadership ad, your CPMs would be like higher. You can still run thought leadership ad, but other than that, other inventories would be costly. So if your ACV is $10,000, you can definitely start trying LinkedIn ads. That is one metric I would say. In which vertical it works really really well, I would say. One of our, like, we have close to 14 HR tech companies in our portfolio today, and the mix is today 50-50 percentage. 50% LinkedIn and 50% Google. Why? Because LinkedIn is not a, a hangout tool for HRs. LinkedIn is a work tool for HRs. Right? So you just need to be, be aware of, what all
Ah,
these
that's an
people are
interesting
doing.
point. The kind
Yeah,
of category or what you sell for, and also the ACV depends
correct.
on like how you want to run your
Correct,
LinkedIn
correct.
ads.
And another biggest part, I would say, the sales tech or martech companies, right? Because they also but it's really difficult to convince these companies because they are also marketers or sellers and things like that. But that is a very big vertical that could be almost available on LinkedIn, so you can tap on that. That would be one other thing. And I also see a very good opportunity for IT services. Right, like a lot of IT services also started spending a good amount on LinkedIn ads. I I suggest most of the IT services to actually spend more on LinkedIn ads. Why? Because right, it's an easy way to introduce themselves. So the biggest problem of IT services is they cannot differentiate themselves, right? Every IT services company is doing the same thing, more like an agency, like us, right? So we are also running ads. Like there are about 1,000 other companies are also running ads. And how do we different ourselves is basically talking about our own thing outside of our website. So the only platform that you can constantly do with confidence is LinkedIn today, right? So
Got it.
IT services is something I can see like they can optimize more, and yeah. So and another thing which is not worked out very well for us is healthcare is not worked out very well for us,
Mm,
right? Because this audience is not available in LinkedIn for most
mm,
part, and this vertical solutions like more like spa management, fitness,
mm,
those kind of verticals have been not very much available
got it.
on one other thing which again worked really well is this education,
Mm.
like not edtech B2C. It's like if you're already selling to other education companies, again, this works really well. LinkedIn works really well.
Got it. That's interesting, actually, where you want to see and how you want to run LinkedIn ads and how it works. That's almost towards the end of what we are discussing, right? From like there were very clear strategies on how to you can increase your LinkedIn ads ROI, which is 2xing your LinkedIn, but more specifically, there were amazing tactics which was discussed. Coming to the end of what we are discussing, can you maybe take up one or two examples, if possible, on like how companies initially were like very against LinkedIn ads, but what you did for them, you don't need to name those companies, but what you did for them with LinkedIn ads, which basically made LinkedIn ads very, very successful, driving a lot of pipeline for them.
Got it. Got it. So there is one, you can also call Factors.ai as an example, but the founders are not against LinkedIn ads, but they are happy to invest on LinkedIn ads. But we are always in a skeptical about can we get a proper ROI and all those things. But since the product is also built on top of LinkedIn, so we could able to prove some value. And but there are a few examples, right? One
Mm,
HR tech company that I was talking about. We started with around $25,000. It's a very big HR tech company, by the way.
mm,
And so what we have done was we have completely integrated the strategy. So we have added partner marketing, we have added product marketing, we have added all the releases. We treated LinkedIn as more like a press release, as I told you,
mhm.
right? And then we have created different signals, more like primary KPIs, secondary KPIs for different types of campaigns and things like that. And I can confidently say without any doubt, LinkedIn contributes 40-45% of the overall pipeline of the company,
Wow.
right? And there is an AP automation company. Like most of the people knows this company. Again,
Mm,
it's a US based company. For them, we started very small, targeting their 2,500 accounts. By the way,
mhm,
and right now we got around 70% of penetration across
mm,
these 2,500 companies. And LinkedIn is one of the biggest channel for them to compare them against their legacy competitors out there. People are getting to know about this company on a
mhm,
regular basis. That is one. And another interesting case study that I would like to basically say is for another IT services company. We just targeted 15 accounts, right?
mm,
And all these are airlines, right? Like more like Indigo, Air India, Air Asia, and things like that. It's in the US. So only 15 accounts we got because we got one case study built for one of the airline that we already worked with. So we picked up that project and then we targeted
mm,
1,000 people on every airline, right? And then we've created three levels, for influencers, more like who we are kind of campaign, and for
mhm.
middle managers, we talk about this is how we can increase your throughput and things like that. And for top management, we just discuss more about more one-on-one, kind of a thing. See, if you look at for every company, 1,000 people, so there are about like 1,600 plus audience, and out
Wow.
of which you imagine every month we get around 100 leads. All right, every account we'll have around 30 leads in
Okay.
a quarter, right? So the idea is not that. The idea is basically to meet the executive team in US, right?
Mm-hmm.
And out of the 16 companies, we already got around 4 opportunities, and one
Mm-hmm.
deal will worth around like 1.5 million in USD. So that is the deal cost for this particular company. So again, we are in an RFP stage for one company, right? If we
Mm-hmm.
close it, we spent close to $60,000 on LinkedIn. We are going to get 1.5 million back.
It's an insane ROI. Insane.
Because of the the company nature, they serve for Fortune 500
Mhm.
this thing, so their deal
You're
size
able
is
to
around
do it.
10 plus. Yeah.
That's great. And folks, if you want more insights or if you want to see how LinkedIn ads can work better for you, if you are a marketer or a founder of a B2B or a SaaS startup, please feel free to reach out to Shyam. He is very active on LinkedIn. Triple Dot team is also very popular and also active on LinkedIn. So please reach out to them if you want more performance marketing strategies, specifically around LinkedIn. And towards this, we have come to an end. Shyam, it's been a pleasure talking to you. It's a lot of insights and a lot of things to learn across the board. I personally learned a lot. And one more thing, the last tidbit which I wanted to share about Shyam is like both of us share the same native place. We both come from Mailadurai, which is town on the banks of Kaveri in Delta, in Tanjore district in Tamil Nadu. So maybe there is something about B2B marketing and Mailadurai district which pushes a lot of people. So I am very proud of that also. So that's the last tidbit. Like we share our nativity. So that's for today's LinkedIn Live. Thanks a lot, everyone. Uh, please be tomorrow. We are doing another LinkedIn Live also with Priyanka and Bharat, where we talk about clay playbooks with Factors.ai. So that's also going to be something which is very, very interesting. So looking forward to seeing you all there as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for joining, everyone. Nice to be connected. Otherwise, thank you so
Yeah.
much, Sri.
Thank you. Man, just closing.